Anyway, so what we do know about the Prophet Muhammad is that he was born in Rabi' al-Awwal. And he was born on a Monday. And on those 2 points, Rabi' al-Awwal and Monday, there's no difference of opinion. There is a difference of opinion as to what day it was. Okay, and the majority say it's the 12th day, even though some say it's the 9th. And there's nothing decisive or authentic on this. Like, if there was a decisive, authentic hadith, if we're at the 9th or the 12th, there wouldn't be a difference of opinion. But the fact that, so, that's one thing. Another astrologist called Mahmoud Basha, he said that this would be the 9th of, I think, what did he say? It would be April 571. What day would that be? The 9th of April? I think so. I don't know what he said. I'll have to find out what day he said. But he said this will be in April 571. Gregorian. And there is a hadith, which by the way, I did some work looking at each of these hadiths to see if they're authentic or not. Like what I'm about to tell you now. So I'm going to go into a bit of a hadith analysis on each of the things. There's many different hadiths about when the Prophet ﷺ was born, some kind of light emanated from his mother, ﷺ. Now there are some hadiths which have been shown to be inauthentic, but there is a hadith saying, or there are hadiths saying that there was a light coming from her mother, from his mother. A lot of those hadiths with that brevity, that there was some kind of light, or that she had a dream of some kind of light. There is a hadith like that which are authentic, but there are ones which talk about the different towns in the Sham and this, and that one is inauthentic. Like the ones which have embellished detail about where the light emanated to and stuff like that, these ones are inauthentic. But in general, there is a hadith which are authentic, which say that some light emanated from his mother, which of course is one of the, you would say, the miracles, or one of the things which indicates, because it's symbolic in many ways. We believe it's a literal thing that happened, but it's also symbolic in the sense that it symbolizes the light coming to humanity. And what we know is that after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the Seerah literature says that he was sent to the desert. As many of you will know, this was the custom of the Arabs, and he was sent so that because in the mudun, or in the cosmopolitan cities, there was more disease, there was more physical disease, people were a bit more rough, the language wasn't as pure, so people were sent to the villages. And he was suckled by a particular woman called Halima Sa'diyah. And there are hadiths, I tried to look for them, which say that as soon as he came into my life, basically there was a halo of good fortune that basically came about. She had her own son who wouldn't suckle, now he would suckle the goat and all these kind of things. I couldn't find the authentication, like a hadith which is at the level of authentic, referring to these things. Having said that, it's so common, that particular narration, that almost every seerah that I've come across does actually mention this. What is clear is that he's this incident, which is of the opening of the chest of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is mentioned in Sahih Muslim. And in fact, there's more than one hadith about it. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got to a certain age, he was playing around with Banu Sa'd kids, because Banu Sa'd was a particular tribe where he went out with them, and he was with the Banu Sa'd kids. And one day a man came, he grabbed the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he opened his chest, and obviously we consider this to be a miracle. He took his heart out, put it into a basin which is golden, and he removed the impediment inside of it, which was hadh shaitan, or effectively what the devil's influence from that, and then he re-put it into the chest of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the kids, the Banu Sa'd kids, went and they thought that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been murdered. Now this is an extraordinary event, obviously. It's one that if a secular person was here, would say this is a kind of fairy tale, this is actually a kind of legend. And in fact, I think it's important for us to mention that some shubuhat have been put on this issue. And I'll tell you what shubuhat have been put on this issue. The first is that people say, well, why the heart? And this would indicate that there's something about the heart which has a cognitive ability, maybe, or that it has some kind of spiritual. Why the heart? We know now the human being, he is a cognitive human being, or the cognition happens in the center of that is the brain. So I'm being a materialist here and just like arguing the point to say to the Muslim, this story in the beginning of the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad's life, where the Prophet was taken, his heart was taken out, and then the black spot of his heart was washed and stuff like that, it makes no sense, because even if we say there's evilness in the human being, why would it be located in the heart in a physical sense? And then there's a secondary thing, which they say, look, the Quran even indicates, and this I think is in the next slide, the Quran even indicates, yes, actually the one after that, the Quran even indicates, and the Hadith indicates, that the heart itself is the center of cognition. Yeah, for example, there's two ayahs they'll bring, but before that, there's a Hadith that there is a part of the body, إذا صلحت وصلحت
ألا إن في كل جسد مضغة
إذا
فإذا
صلحت
صلح
صلح
الجسد كله.
So it's the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith after, when he became a prophet, he said that there is a part of the body that if it's rectified, the entire body is rectified. Yeah, and ألا وهي القلب, and that part of the body, that mudgha, that part of the body is the heart. And in fact, there's ayahs in the Quran, two in particular, which is Surah Al-Hajj, for example, where it says, the shahid of it is وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَلْ قُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ, that it's not the absar, it's not the visions. In Surah Al-Hajj it mentions, in chapter 46, in verse 46, it's not the visions that become blind, but it is the hearts inside the visions which become blind. I'll tell you why I'm bringing this to your attention, because this is what they say. The materialist is saying, look, if you look at the Quran and the Sunnah, it's clear, and with this story, it's clear that what's happening is that the Islamic narrative indicates that the heart is the center of consciousness and is the center of cognition, not the brain, which shows you a backward understanding of the scientific process, which actually indicates to us that most of our cognitions happen in the brain. And they say, look at this verse in the Quran, it corroborates the situation that happened, because you've got here the inshiqaq al-sadr of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you've got the opening of the heart, you've got these verses in the Quran, you've got this other hadith, which indicates that the Quranic understanding is there's something about the heart itself, which is a backward ancient understanding, which shows you that Islam is not in line with science. This is the kind of shubuhat that come from, or the kind of doubts that come from this line of thinking. So there's two ayahs that they use in the Quran, one in Surah Al-Hajj, and the other one in Surah Al-A'raf, where at the end of it says, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا, as you mentioned, yeah? They have hearts that they don't understand with those hearts. So here it's لا يفقهون بها. Fiqh effectively is understanding. So it's indicating that there's some kind of understanding happening in the heart. This is how they build the case. The answer to this is as follows. First of all, if you look at the tafsir of chapter 22 verse 46, which talks about وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَلْ الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ, that certainly it's the hearts that become blind. Even the Salaf understood this to be a kind of, if you like, spiritual blindness. And I'll explain to you how. But for example, I've mentioned here, Qatada mentions, so actually let's go to Mujahid. Mujahid mentions there's two kinds of visions. There's visions that come from the two eyes in the head, and then there is a vision that comes from the heart, which is a spiritual vision. So you can already look at the Salaf and say it's a spiritual vision and these kind of things. It's not necessarily to be said that the vision is actually the vision of the way we, for example, I see this bottle, that what is being referred to is that the hearts are blind, that I can see this bottle, I cannot see this bottle. That Mujahid would indicate through his words, would go to the vision of the faculties on the head, which are the eyes, for example, the visions and so on. So this indicates already the Salaf understood from this a kind of, I'm going to say, metaphoric meaning, or a spiritual meaning, at least. The Salaf understood it like that. But there's more to be said about this. Ibn Jarir Tabari also mentioned that actually this particular ayah came down Ibn Maktoum, who was blind, and the as you know, he was one of the people that gave adhan and stuff. And the messaging to that was that it's not really the blindness of this dunya, of this world, which is problematized. It's the blindness of guidance. So although Ibn Maktoum was blind from one perspective, he had vision from another perspective, which is a spiritual perspective. That's why the ayah came in talking about him. So already you can say from one perspective, when Allah says, وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَلْ قُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ, the ama here, or the blindness that it's talking about in the hearts, is not the blindness of the eyes, effectively. You know what I mean? So that's all the visions from one perspective. However, having said this, the question of where's the aql comes into play. The aql is the word, a shorthand for rationality or the intellect. Does Islam indicate that the aql is in the brain? Actually, there's no hadith, and it's true. There's no hadith and there's no Quranic verse that says that the aql, or the idea of it, the intellect of the human being, or consciousness, or anything like that, is located in any one place. The mahal of the aql. Where is the mahal? This is the mahal, means where's the location of the aql. There is no indication in the Quran and Sunnah that the mahal of the aql, or the location of the aql, or of the intellect, is in the heart, or is in the brain, or is in the soul, or anywhere in particular. Which is why Ibn Taymiyyah, quoting Ahmad ibn Hanbal, by the way, which, as you know, a person who is very strict on the literal interpretation of Quran and Sunnah, he actually said that this was their theory, and this is not based on nas, but he said that where the aql is, where the heart is filled up with information, then the information goes to the brain. This is they understood the brain as having, the early scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, understood that the aql is in two different places, effectively. Is in the brain and is in the heart. They understood it like that. It's in more than one place. So this is one interesting thing. This, I've given you the references for that as well. So the question is it in the brain? Because a lot of the early scholars, especially from the philosophers, like Ibn Rushd and those guys, would say, no, it's in the brain. Ibn Sina said, no, it's in the brain. Those other guys said, no, it's in the heart. And there's other guys, third party, said, no, it's in both. The aql is in the heart, in both. Aql is actually, it's very interesting how I did a research one time, is what is aql? How is it even defined? And they said aql, the intellect, is defined as غريزة تميز الإنسان عن سائر الحيوانات, or is some kind of, غريزة literally an impulse which distinguishes the human being from other animals. So the idea of aql is a conceptual idea. It's not really effectively located in one place, and this definition is somewhere, is in most places. Like Ghazali, I think, mentions this, definitely Ibn Taymiyyah mentions this, and many other people as well. Having said that, though, it does indicate, like, I mean, let's be honest, the fact that the physical heart was taken out of the body of the Prophet Muhammad, it indicates there's something going on with the physical heart. Because if we say the whole thing is metaphoric, I don't think that would be giving justice to what we are witnessing here. Yes, these ayahs in the Quran, you could argue, as we have and shown, that, okay, it's not talking about actual physical material blindness, it's talking about spiritual blindness. Okay, fine. But the second ayah, which is لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها, that they have hearts which they don't understand with, it could indicate very clearly that their heart has a cognitive function. And the fact that the heart was taken out of the body of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and then put into a basin which was gold and washed with Zamzam water, and something was taken out of that heart, indicates there is some level of interactivity between the heart, maybe, and the soul, maybe. Or, to go further, that the heart has some kind of cognitive function. Yes?
Sorry, did any other prophet go through the same procedure as our prophet?
Not that I've come across. No, I haven't come across that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah?
I wanted to ask you, you know, the notion of the heart having some kind of feeling. You know, how follow what your heart says, don't follow your brain, and that kind of notion. Yeah, how did that come into play in the first instance? Do you know, like, even before Islam? Because I want to understand why they even put the heart into play here.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, this is something which many cultures believed in the past, the heart broken. Even a lot of the stuff that we say nowadays is there. The question is there any scientific basis for this? And you'll be surprised that there isn't. Look at the next slide. There have been, and there is, a plethora now, it's almost undeniable, of scientific information which indicates that there are a bundle of neurons in the heart which have the potential of cognitive process. In fact, there's a whole institute in California called the Heart Math Institute, and they specialize in looking at the cognitive process of the heart. And so they say, what is it, 80,000, 40,000? It's much less than the maybe tens of hundreds of millions of neurons in the brain. But nevertheless, there are neurons in the brain, in the heart, which have the ability to think effectively. And they call this the brain in the heart thesis. And you can do your own research in your own time. But this is in peer-reviewed scientific journals. So already, even if one takes it to that, and if someone says, for the sake of argument, yes, why does the Quran says, that you cannot deny that there is some kind of connectivity on a material, cognitive level that the heart. And I was even reading some of these journals, and it was saying that the heart can actually receive information directly, and then it goes to the brain. And this kind of thing would think to you, it's like almost fairy tale like. How could it be? So the idea of being heartbroken has a physical dimension now. I mean, you can be heartbroken. Does it hurt your heart physically? There's something going on with your heart. So this is one particular abstract. Scientists have reported pain is created by the brain. This is not entirely true. This may not be entirely true. Pain is not a sensory experience, but can also be associated with emotional, cognitive, and social experiments. The heart is considered a source of emotions, desire, and wisdom. Therefore, the aim of this article is to review the available evidence about the role of the heart in pain modulation. And then you can see that he effectively tells you there is an effect of the heart in pain modulation. And so look at this one here, the next one. They do a lot of the research on rats and stuff like that, and this is a BBC article telling you about this the bundles and the neurons that are there in the rat. And look at this one. This is not just a pump. The heart contains an intrinsic nervous system that exhibits both short and long-term memory functions. The intrinsic nervous system of the heart consists of approximately 40,000 neurons called sensory neurites, which relay information to the brain. You see, it is possible that these neurons play a pivotal part in memory transfer. What is truly surprising is the discovery that the heart also functions as an endocrine organ. In other words, like thyroid gland or the adrenal gland, it produces several hormones, including cardiac. I don't know how to pronounce this, by the way. This hormone exerts its effect on blood vessels, kidneys, adrenal glands, and a large number of regulatory regions of the brain. So very interesting, because as you know, neurotransmitters and hormones, they affect how you feel. So it's not only that it's pain and pleasure, but we're talking here about cognition and memory. Yes?
You said there are two verses about the qalb. There's another verse, فَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونُ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا. The heart is said to do the job of aql. يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا.
Yeah, but that's, if we go back to that verse, say that verse again.
فَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فتكون لهم قلوب يعقلون بها
أو
آذان يسمعون ولكن تعمى القلوب.
No, that's the one that we mentioned.
The same words. The same words. At the end it said ولكن تعمى القلوب. It's blind, yeah? It's blind.
No, I mean that's the verse I mentioned. Like what you just mentioned there is مطلع الآية. It's the same ayah I mentioned.
Yeah, but that's the different what لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها.
لا the first آية أفلم يسيروا في الأرض فيكون لهم قلوب يعقلون بها أو آذان يسمعون بها أو is it something else?
فإنها لا تعمل الأبصار ولكن تعمل
فإنها لا تعمل الأبصار ولكن تعمل القلوب التي في الصدور. That is the ayah the first ayah that we mentioned, but that's the beginning of the ayah. I jumped to the end of it.
Yeah.
That's why. But these are the two main ayahs I mentioned, and in fact, you'll be surprised. Ibn Uthaymeen, the Salafi scholar of the nowadays, he had a whole discussion about this, and he was talking about the mahal of the qalb and the dima is the qalb, the mahal of the aql is the qalb and stuff. He's saying it's in the heart. A lot of Salafi scholars took that very, very literally. Even though Ibn Taymiyyah, who's effectively their go-to person in terms of going to a predecessor, has this more nuanced view about it's more in the dimagh, it's more in this or this and that. So you have to look at all of these in these things. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention some other evidence that I don't know if it's authentic or not, but I was reading something where during heart surgery, the one who gets the heart, he exhibits some personality change.
Yes.
And it's not total personality change, but he does exhibit some personality change.
Yes.
Which they say it's of the person who's the heart belongs to.
Yeah, no, I've read parts of books, not the whole book, but parts of books of people that say that I've had heart transfer, transplant of somebody else's heart, and now and their partners and stuff would say that actually now we have different things that we like.
Yeah.
We have different emotions and different things, and it turns out the thing they like is in line with what the person that gave the heart like. Paragliding, all of a sudden I was jumping out of planes and doing paragliding and stuff like that.
How does that work with pig hearts? 'Cause I think
I don't know, but I had a woman near where I lived who actually had a pig heart, because that is one of the hearts that, subhanAllah,
that you can.
It's
yeah.
the only thing I think, the only heart that a human being can have a transplant with is a
You
pig
can
heart.
only have a portion of it.
Is that right?
You
Is
can't
that-
have a complete pig heart.
a portion of pig
Like
heart,
Arnold Schwarzenegger's got like a quarter.
Oh really?
Oh, yeah.
which explains his recent support for Israel.
So yeah, you're right. then.
So maybe this is. But the point is, this is that, yani, subhanallah, that woman that was, she had a pink house. And I know this sounds ridiculous.
Peer
It's the worst. It's the worst thing. I was trying to go from
PhD level evidence.
I'm telling you. I don't know, but it would have been shocking if she went to the farm and started rolling around. That would be decisive.